before we wrap up, I wanted to spend a couple minutes talking about a game that has been a hot topic these past few months. Indeed, yesterday, word got out that the Advertising Standards Authority in England is exploring whether this game is responsible for false advertising. Of course, I'm talking about No Man's Sky from Hello Games, which came out in August for PlayStation and PC. Now, I honestly resisted saying anything about this game for the better part of the past year because I've been sort of internally conflicted about what I saw happening, and I've sort of played a role in this. I've been in some of the cringe reels on YouTube of a lot of the broken promises. And honestly, the last time I saw the guy who heads up Hello Games, Sean Murray, was back in March, and he told me then that he didn't really want to be around me that much anymore because he thought I was being a little too negative about the game and my assessment of where the team was at. They were under an incredible amount of pressure. And I've lived through this game. I helped launch the game in December of 2013, or launched the announcement of it, when Sean and his team came out to Los Angeles from Guildford, England, to debut their vision at an awards show called VGX. And me, like many of you, were taken by the story of these young indie developers, 10 of them in an old travel agency in Guildford, England, developing this beautiful, rich, procedurally generated world that let you swim below the ocean and fly amongst the stars. It captured our imagination. But as I stood with Sean and his team at the after party that night, I could tell the weight of the world was now on their shoulders. And it reminds me of this old Robert Redford movie, The Candidate, where he wins an election and then he stands in the hotel room with his advisor and says, "What do we do now?" I felt like these guys had no idea where they were going to go, but they had this huge amount of momentum. And no matter what you thought of the final product, I think we all agree that Sean enrolled us in a dream for the kind of experience we all want to have with a video game. No Man's Sky captured our imaginations, and in our mind's eye, we all envisioned what the experience was going to be like before we had it. And sometimes, as the old saying goes, you want to sort of shoot for the moon because even if you miss, you'll land among the stars. As I thought more and more about what was happening with No Man's Sky, I remembered that this kind of has happened before in the game industry. In fact, back at E3 1999, I was in a room with a developer from the same town Sean's from, Guildford, England, who sold me on his vision of a 3D world that was going to be unlike anything else out there. It was going to be a living, breathing universe. In fact, you could see a worm crawl out of an apple, and then majestically, you'd pull back the camera through the clouds and look at these gargantuan creatures that you trained up, and they would engage in these Street Fighter-like battles with each other. In fact, if you don't believe me, I found this amazing clip on, of all places, YouTube, of that exact demo from 15 years ago at E3. Check this out.
This is your citadel. This is where you reside, and this obviously changes and morphs to reflect what you're like as a games player. Just as what I said, the landscape around it changes and morphs. So if you have a look in that storage pit, you can just see here there is a barrel, and on that barrel is a little apple, and in that apple you can just see there is a worm. And I can go from looking at this worm and pull back and actually look at the whole village, obviously, and even go further back and look at the whole world.
Now, Peter and Sean are friends of mine, but that feels strangely familiar, doesn't it? On the one hand, I admire these game developers who dream big because they can push games in a new direction. I spent 2 weeks of my summer in college hanging out with that guy, Peter Molyneux, and his team as they finished that game, Black and White. And I have to say, he was one of the guys who inspired me to keep covering video games. Because even if he never really delivered, the promise was sometimes enough to inspire us all to think of where games may go one day. I still remember a programmer on that team telling me this story about how Peter went out and announced a planned weather feature for the game to the press, where supposedly the weather in the game would match what was outside your actual window. And he did this before he told anyone on the team and asked if it actually could be achieved. He just thought up cool ideas and wanted to enroll you in this dream world of what games could be. So the fact that a small 15-person team built and shipped a game like No Man's Sky is a stunning achievement, and tireless personal sacrifice was made to bring it to life. But on the other hand, I have to think about the players who wanted to believe in something more than what was in the box when the game shipped in August. I don't think No Man's Sky is a bad game, it's just unfinished and repetitive because, let's face it, games are crafted by skilled storytellers and big teams. Math can't always create meaning. Now, I had many strong discussions with Sean and the team as they led up to launch, and I disagreed with them charging $60 and putting it in a box when I think what they should have done was sort of put it out as an early access game and let people play it and sort of build over time with the team and the community, sort of like what we're trying to do here with this show, is get your feedback and sort of change the show over time and iterate on our format every week. We all wanted to believe in No Man's Sky, and Sean did too, so much that he was never able to build up the gumption to rip off that Band-Aid and reveal what was and wasn't in the game. And I've fretted over the past few years that maybe the platform we gave him to launch the game was too big and created this black hole that he couldn't pull himself out of. But no matter what, you have to be honest with your fans. You can't lie. And Sean wanted to preserve the promise and mystery of the game so much, he started to disrespect his audience. Those of you who paid for it have every right to be disappointed if you felt misled. I always held out hope that they'd finally come together and pull it together, or they'd change their strategy. But what's happened has happened, and the big question is, where does No Man's Sky go now? I finally did reconnect with Sean a few weeks ago on email, and he said they're working hard on updates, and he said he's open to coming on this show later in October to talk more about what happened to me and to all of you. So I hope that's going to happen, and we'll keep you posted. But one of the things I hope to do with this show is to connect us all together, whether it's uniting different generations of gamers, YouTubers, journalists, developers, or giving you at home access to the people who craft the games we love or hate and allow you to interact in real time with primetimevoting.com. We have the platform to start a two-way conversation with the audience. And that, in a way, is what No Man's Sky never did. Well, thanks for watching. We'll see you back next Thursday night for more of Live with YouTube Gaming. Really appreciate you tuning in. See you next Thursday night, live right here on YouTube. Good night.